This is Nightly Business Report with Tyler Matheson and Susie Guerin. Brought to you by
TheStreet.com, interactive financial multimedia tools for an ever-changing financial world. Our dividend stock advisor guides and helps generate income during a period of low interest rates. Real Money helps you think through ideas for investing and trading stocks. Action Alerts Plus is a charitable trust portfolio that provides trade-by-trade strategies. Online, mobile, social media. We are TheStreet.com.
Executive Encore. Procter and Gamble puts its former chief executive back in the corner office, but are shareholders better off when CEOs return?
Aging infrastructure. What needs to be done to keep our roads and bridges safe again?
And sticker shock. Beef prices soar as summer grilling season arrives, and you'll be paying the price at your backyard barbecue. We have all that and more tonight on Nightly Business Report for Friday, May 24th.
Good evening, everyone. An executive shakeup at Dow component Procter and Gamble had all of Wall Street and the world of business buzzing today, but the new boss is same as the old boss, as the Who song used to go. After just 4 years at the helm, CEO Bob McDonald has resigned, and the man who held the job before him, A.G. Lafley, again takes over the company as president, CEO, and chairman. Investors liked what they heard, sending the Dow component stock higher by 4% today at $81.88. So will bringing back the former chief executive make P&G a better company and a better investment? And does the strategy of bringing back the old boss ever work? Jackie DeAngelis has our report.
Procter and Gamble, the largest consumer brand in the world, the maker of products that we know and love like Pampers diapers, Tide detergent, Downy fabric softener, and Crest toothpaste, replacing CEO Bob McDonald with former CEO A.G. Lafley. Lafley ran the company from June of 2000 through June of 2009. He's not just a legend at P&G, but his career is the material upon which Harvard Business School case studies are based. Under Lafley's watch as CEO, the company's stock price soared. It led its peers in terms of performance, and it outperformed the S&P.
One of the definitions that I use of leadership is the ability to continually transform the mission, the strategy, the organization, whatever needs to be transformed to keep pace with and stay ahead of the unrelenting change that I believe is the reality in a global and incredibly competitive marketplace.
Under Bob McDonald, however, who took over in 2009, the company's stock price has suffered on a relative basis. P&G has seen a 54% rise, but it's now one of the laggards in its peer group, and its return is lackluster when compared to the S&P. McDonald was A.G. Lafley's hand-picked successor when he left the company in June of 2009, but McDonald faced many challenges when he took over, leading the consumer products giant through the economic downturn. McDonald was criticized by investors, including Bill Ackman, for not doing enough to cut costs and improve manufacturing productivity. He was scrutinized last quarter when the company missed expectations on revenue and its earnings outlook. But can P&G's problems be blamed entirely on McDonald? Some skeptics argue that Lafley himself may be partially at fault for strategies that predated McDonald's tenure, like the more than $50 billion Gillette acquisition in 2005. And this type of move raises a point about former CEOs coming back to run companies. When Paul Alliere came back to Xerox, the stock fell more than 60%. When William Stavropoulos came back to Dow Chemical, the stock saw a near 60% lift. So former CEOs coming back doesn't always guarantee a home run. Meantime, analysts are generally positive on the change. They couldn't have predicted the timing, but they do say that they weren't totally surprised. The Stifel analyst who has a hold on the stock said that while the move was constructive, it's going to take some time for the fundamentals to change, so he's not changing his rating. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Jackie DeAngelis.
Our guest is in the business of advising executives and students about leadership. Robert Kaplan is the Senior Associate Dean at Harvard Business School. He's the former head of investment banking at Goldman Sachs. That firm did business with Procter and Gamble. And Kaplan is also the author of a new book, What You're Really Meant to Do. Rob, I don't know if this P&G case will become a Harvard Business School case study. Maybe it will be, but you do believe that P&G did do the right thing to bring Lafley back, and tell us why you think that is. What can he do to fix the company and the stock, maybe?
Well, A.G. Lafley is one of the great CEOs that this country's ever had, and he was a great CEO of P&G. He is, as he talked about, he articulates a very clear vision, how they add value, what their competencies are, but in particular, that vision is always driven by the needs of the customer. And so he talked about the need to adapt, to change, to keep moving forward, and I think that takes real decisiveness. And so what I think he'll bring to this company, he'll finish the restructuring, the cost cutting, but I think you'll see him focus very heavily on the customer and on innovation and adapting to better serve the needs of the customer.
Mr. Kaplan, this feels a little bit like Phil Jackson coming back to coach the Lakers one more time. I wonder what it says, though. P&G has always had this reputation of being a place that minted the next generation of business leaders. Number one, do you agree with that? And number two, does the fact that they went back to the former CEO suggest that they had no one on their bench who could step up if the board wasn't happy with Mr. McDonald?
I think given the timing of the decision with McDonald, I think it was a good decision to go to A.G. Lafley. I still think they have successors and lots of talent in this company, and I think what you'll see A.G. Lafley do is cultivate a number of those up-and-coming executives, and he will pick from that group the next CEO. So I still think you'll see they have a real competence at developing people. I think at this moment, there probably was no one that they felt was quite up to this job, and it made more sense to bring in Lafley right now.
I wonder if you can get some more specifics from you on what kind of changes to expect, because Lafley sent a memo to employees today, and he said in there, the consumer is boss, those are his words, innovation is our lifeblood. What kind of changes can we expect at P&G?
So under Lafley, the company went from being more of a housewares company to a personal care and beauty company. The U.S. consumers changed a lot, though, in the last 5 years, and they're more price sensitive. So I think you'll see him look very hard on, in the United States, for starters, how to better serve the consumer given they're more price sensitive. I think he'll also look at their product offering in emerging markets, fast-growing markets. But it wouldn't surprise me to see them make some more bold decisions about innovating and introducing new products that serve the customer need. And if necessary, he'll make acquisitions too.
You know, there's probably no company in the world that knows more about what women want. That's their business. That's what they say they want to know. What do women want from that company right now?
Well, they've got 25 business lines that generate $1 billion or more, and that includes products for women, but it also includes diapers for babies and a whole range of other products in between, toothbrushes, Oral-B, you name it. And so what women want, it sounds like from all the research I've read, at least in the United States, they're a little more price sensitive. Household sector has been beaten up in this country over the last number of years. There's a lot of competition, and they're probably a little more, they want more value.
Oh, we could go on for hours with you. Rob, thanks so much. This was great. Robert Kaplan from Harvard Business School.
Good to talk to you.
All right, on Wall Street today, stocks wrapped up a quite volatile week with a whimper. Lingering worries about when the Federal Reserve may begin pulling back on its stimulus program led the major averages to post their first weekly loss in over a month. That happened despite that jump in shares of Procter and Gamble and some good news about manufacturing. Orders for long-lasting or durable goods shot up more than 3% in April, led by strong demand for new aircraft. After an up-and-down session, the Dow closed 8 points higher but ended lower for the week. Both the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 were essentially unchanged, each closing a fraction lower.
The nation's crumbling infrastructure was a big topic today for Americans all across the country. The Washington State Bridge collapse last night is a stark reminder of the troubling condition of the nation's roads, bridges, and tunnels. So what needs to be done to make them safe again? Michelle Caruso-Cabrera reports.
The collapse occurred around 7 p.m. last night on a stretch of Interstate 5 in Mount Vernon, Washington. 3 people in 2 cars plunged into the icy waters below.
When you looked at all the carnage of the metal and stuff around you, I assumed that was it at that point. There was no hope. That's what I was thinking.
However, all 3 people were rescued. Washington State Police told reporters an oversized truck hit one of the overhead spans. The tractor-trailer made it all the way across before the span fell into the river. The driver stayed and cooperated with investigators. The bridge was inspected twice last year and received a score of 47 out of a possible 100.
It's an older bridge that needs a lot of work, just like a good amount of the bridges around the state.
More than anything, the bridge collapse highlights the aging state of the nation's roads and bridges. Constructed in 1955, this bridge is labeled by the Federal Highway Administration as functionally obsolete.
Those are bridges that have design features like there are no shoulders on the bridge, the width of the lanes are too narrow. There could be other aspects of the bridge that you just wouldn't design into a bridge in this day and age, so that's why they're considered functionally obsolete.
This bridge had a clearance of 14.5 feet, while the current standard is 16 feet. In Washington state, 20% of all bridges fall into this category. Across the United States, the number is 13%, or 80,000. The American Society of Civil Engineers, which assesses the nation's infrastructure every 4 years, gives the United States a grade of D+. That's an improvement from last time, but still lagging. The nation's bridges get a slightly better grade of C+.
I think the big picture lesson here is that the nation needs to continue focusing on investing in bridges, improving their condition, and not just bridges, but transportation in general.
Figuring out how to pay for it will be the next challenge. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Michelle Caruso Cabrera.
Still ahead, lobbyists are doing what they can do to influence lawmakers and soften any new financial regulations. But you may be surprised to find out just how cozy they're getting. But first, how the international markets closed today.
Tens of thousands of federal government workers got the day off today, but not for fun. It's because of federal budget cuts known as the sequester. About 5% of the total government workforce were furloughed, completely shutting down the IRS, the Environmental Protection Agency, Housing and Urban Development, and the Office of Management and Budget. More furloughs will kick in after July 4th. That's when Uncle Sam looks to keep 650,000 workers home without pay every week.
Another group of employees in the nation's capital are working harder than ever right now, lobbyists. 3 years after the Dodd-Frank law overhauling regulation of the financial industry, lobbyists working for the nation's biggest banks are the ones drafting those new financial rules. And guess who's benefiting? John Harwood joins us from Washington with more. John, how common is it for lobbyists to play such a big role in writing legislation or regulations?
It's pretty common, Tyler, and the reason is that the industries, of course, have a lot of expertise, and many industries hire as their lobbyists people who worked on the very committees that are doing the legislation in question. So it's a very cozy relationship. This is why they call it Washington's revolving door. It's been going on for quite a long time, and it works both ways. To the benefit of business, which is something that, especially when Republicans are in control of the House, is an aid to business. And, of course, campaign contributions help with that. But it also helps in the other direction. Organized labor, environmental groups, people who are more aligned with the Democratic Party do precisely the same thing.
Well, this is news to most Americans. I mean, how should we respond to this? Should we be angry, or should we be pleased that they're all working together?
Well, there is something to be said for the expertise that they bring to the table. But I think the important thing is disclosure and transparency so that people know what's going on. And my colleagues in the New York Times came out with a report today showing how closely Wall Street representatives had worked with the House of Representatives committee on this. And the more people know about it, the more they know what sort of laws that they're going to get.
That article was really fascinating, John. It said in one place that a big passage in the proposed legislation was word for word what Citibank had proposed, except for two changes of a couple of words from singular to plural. How likely are these changes to the Dodd-Frank bill likely to become law?
Well, the fact that the drafting of those pieces of legislation is now known is going to help opponents and consumer representatives who want more regulation of those derivatives trades push back. The one thing we know is that when you've got a Republican House and a Democratic Senate, both sides are going to have their views aired. So as much progress as those lobbyists may be able to make in the House, controlled by Republicans, the Senate, controlled by Democrats, is going to have its say as well, and there will be lobbyists on the other side trying to push back.
John Harwood, thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
You bet.
Let's turn now to Market Focus, and we begin with a market-moving verdict for Intuitive Surgical. A jury ruled that the company was not negligent in the case of a man who died after surgery using Intuitive's robotic Da Vinci machines. Investors made Intuitive the top gainer in the S&P 500 today, up more than 4.5%, closing at $500 and change.
Valeant Pharmaceutical, also a big gainer today, on reports it will buy Bausch & Lomb from the private equity firm Warburg Pincus for about $9 billion. The deal could be announced as soon as next week. Shares of Valeant up more than 13% to close at $84.47. Abercrombie & Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries promised things would get better by back-to-school season. Nevertheless, he lowered guidance for the full year today after reporting a 15% drop in comp store sales and a deeper profit decline than expected. The stock closed off its low at $50.02, but it was down 8% on the day.
And Sears CEO Eddie Lambert said his company's performance, quote, has not been acceptable. He was reacting to the loss we told you about last night, more than double Wall Street estimates. Shares of Sears down double digits all day long, closing at $50.25, a drop of 13.5%.
Our market monitor tonight says investors who are really long-term owners of stocks should not be scared of a little market volatility. He's Marty LeClaire, Chief Investment Officer at Barrack Yard Advisors. Mr. LeClaire, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thanks, Tyler.
How can I insulate myself against the natural fear of volatility? When things go up and down a lot, as they have this past week, it starts to feel a little risky.
Well, the thing that people have to realize is that volatility and risk are not the same thing. Mr. Market will tell you that your shares are worth a certain amount of money on any given day. But the key is time horizon. If you have a long-term time horizon, then it just becomes noise.
All right.
You are a big proponent of buying stocks, and you are again putting out a warning that not a good idea to be in bonds or anything that is tied to the interest rate world. A lot of our viewers still think that bonds are a safe place to be. Give us your case of not to own bonds.
Investing has so many paradoxes associated with it, and right now, because of the zero interest rate policy of the Fed, safe investments or investments that are traditionally thought of as being safe are paradoxically not safe. The Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, estimates that by the year 2019 that we'll probably be back in a normalized interest rate environment. If that's the case, then 10-year Treasury bonds will be yielding 5%. And those of us who've lived for a while don't think that 5% is a particularly high interest rate. If that were to indeed come true, then people who currently own long-dated assets tied to the cost of money, like REITs and preferred stocks and long-term bonds, would see somewhere between a 30 to 40% decline in the principal value of their investment.
Boy,
it's just simple math.
That really nails it right there. It tells you how much you'd lose if interest rates go up by that much. To your point, that what seems safe sometimes can be very risky. Let's go to some stocks now, Marty, quickly, beginning with one you like that has not been doing much over the past decade. That's Cisco. Why do you like it now?
Valuations. First of all, we like their business. They're an entrenched incumbent participant in the global IT infrastructure, which is a very good business. The business has a decent and high return on invested capital. But it's valuations, Tyler. Cisco right now is trading on a free cash flow yield of about 10%. And in addition to that, they are very, very strong financially. They have $5.60 of net cash per share. So really, the global economy can throw a lot at them, and they'll still be okay.
Marty, let's move along to your next one. You like DuPont, DD on the big board. What do you like about it? The stock has had a nice move so far this year.
Right. I don't know if I'd be chasing DuPont at these levels, and we're not particularly, I would say, bullish on the stock market right now. We are a little bit wary. But the thing that's great about DuPont is that it's a way to participate in two major themes that we see. One is the rise of the global middle class and the accompanying boom that will be for global agricultural companies. And not very many people know this, but DuPont owns the largest seed company on the planet. It's called Pioneer Hybrid. And the seed business is a wonderful business. It has enormous barriers to entry, and there are only 4 major companies who basically control the market. The other way that the other trend that one gets exposure to by owning DuPont is America's energy independence that's being as the result of the shale revolution. And the important thing is that companies like DuPont, which are big consumers of energy, for their American business, will have a competitive cost advantage relative to our trading partners.
A little short on time, Marty. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Do you have any disclosures to make on those 2 stocks you mentioned?
Yes, I own both of them.
Well, that's a clear disclosure.
As do my clients.
All right. Thank you. Marty LeClaire, Chief Investment Officer at Barrack Yard Advisors.
And coming up on the program, summer sizzle takes on a whole new meaning this season as the cost of your cookout climbs. But first, a check on commodities, treasuries, and currencies. Despite all the good news in housing lately, millions of Americans still owe more on their mortgages than their homes are worth. And when those homeowners move out, more and more of these underwater borrowers are becoming landlords, not because they want to, but because many of them have to. Diana Olick has the story.
Florida native Maria Wells never, ever wanted to be a landlord.
I will be really happy when I am not in these situations.
Maria owned 2 homes, one hers and one for her mother. As the housing recession dragged on, her life changed. Maria got married and moved in with her new husband. Her mother fell and had to go to assisted living. Suddenly, Maria was saddled with unwanted real estate.
I wasn't happy about it, but I was so upside down, did not want to do a short sale or a foreclosure. So I decided that I needed to rent them.
Even as home prices slowly improve, 13 million homeowners are still underwater on their mortgages, and another 9 million likely don't have enough equity to move. That's according to Zillow. Inevitably, life circumstances, be it job changes, marriage, or divorce, force people to move. That has created a new breed of accidental landlords.
People of some means are able to avail themselves and become accidental landlords, actually move out of the house, move into another one, and rent out their old house. So it's definitely something that we see in a lot of markets that have been hard hit.
While some underwater borrowers choose to walk away from their homes and take the credit hit, those who want to protect their scores are staying to face the music, which isn't always pretty.
One of the tenants certainly surprised me. They decided to change a water filter and left for a holiday weekend, and I got the call that 500 gallons of water had gone into my home, and $50,000 later in repairs, I had to fix it and then re-rent it again.
While there are no hard numbers on how many accidental landlords are out there today, realtors say the phenomenon is contributing to the lack of for sale inventory because many people are now buying without selling.
In some of the hardest hit markets, it may take years for these homeowners to rise above water and sell their way out of the rental business. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Diana Olick in Washington.
Finally tonight, as we kick off the unofficial start of summer, I say we just make it official. Come on, guys. Millions of Americans may be planning to grill up some steaks or burgers, maybe even some hot dogs this holiday weekend. But before you do, brace yourself for some sticker shock at the butcher shop, he said. Jane Wells tells us what's cooking with beef prices.
Come on, babies!
A funny thing happens to your barbecue from here to here. The price sizzles.
Beef prices have probably gone up around close to 20%.
Alan Rozoyan owns the Handy Market in Burbank, California. He says demand for beef always jumps heading into the summer barbecue season, which affects prices. But these prices?
There has to be more than demand.
Nearly all cuts of meat cost more, many hitting records. Ground beef prices have jumped the most, up 9% in a year. Lean ground beef up 21%.
Here's something you're going to see a lot of in California this week in San Maria style barbecue, tri-tip. They're selling it for about $12.98 a pound. Here at the Green Acres Market in Simi Valley, they're having to pay 15 to 20% more for beef just over the last 2 months. They're passing along about a third of that new cost.
What's going on? It's all supply and demand. Exports are up, especially to Japan, affecting demand. Meantime, the nation's cattle herd is at an all-time low after last year's drought made feeding cattle too expensive. In California, where ranchers are just as likely to drive golf carts as ride horses, Bud Sloan says dry weather has left him with too little rangeland. He's having to buy feed. He's already cut the size of his herd almost in half, and he may not be done.
If these cows are not in calf, if they're not pregnant, then I'm going to have to cull them, and they'll go to hamburger. I'll save the ones that are bred and be able to feed them and hopefully maintain an economic unit.
High beef prices should encourage ranchers to begin rebuilding their herds, but that hasn't happened yet. Meantime, cattle futures are falling as traders predict more Americans will switch from beef to chicken. For Nightly Business Report, Jane Wells, Simi Valley, California.
And that's Nightly Business Report for tonight. Have a great weekend. I'm Susie Garrett.
And you have a great weekend too, Suze.
Tyler.
I'm Tyler Matheson. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday for a special Nightly Business Report.
Nightly Business Report has been brought to you by
TheStreet.com, interactive financial multimedia tools for an ever-changing financial world. Our dividend stock advisor guides and helps generate income during a period of low interest rates. Options Profits helps educate beginning and seasoned options traders. Action Alerts Plus is a charitable trust portfolio that provides trade-by-trade strategies. Online, mobile, social media. We are TheStreet.com.
I'm Susie Garrett with a Nightly Business Report news brief. The CEO of Procter and Gamble has resigned, and the company is bringing back the same man who held the job before him. Investors liked it. Shares of Dow component P&G rose 4% today. Stocks wrapped up a volatile week with a whimper. The Dow rose 8 points, and both the Nasdaq and the S&P lost a fraction. Orders for long-lasting durable goods shot up more than 3% in April, led by strong demand for new aircraft. 4 federal agencies were effectively shut down today by furloughs at the IRS, the EPA, Housing and Urban Development, and the Office of Management and Budget. And Delta Airlines opened a new $1.4 billion terminal at New York City's JFK International Airport. Be sure to tune into Nightly Business Report right here on your public television station.